Hello, hello, beautiful listeners. Let's do this, shall we? Okay, so we're talking about something today that I love, being prepared. It's something I love to be. And it's something that is really important to me as a coach and facilitator because it sits at the intersection between what we do, what we generate, achieve, create, build, and the quality of how we show up in the doing, the generating, the creating, the producing, the achieving. So it is both doing what we do and also how we be in the doing of it. That to me is what makes being prepared really special. It is both of those things together. And and as a coach, why is this so important to me? Well, a lot of the time, majority of the time, my clients, whether it's founders, teams, individuals, professionals in their workplaces, whether it is that group setting or that human setting, the focus often sits at what we're looking to achieve. And sometimes the achievement is a change. It's a change in state. I'm looking for a new career. I'm looking for a new product launch. Sometimes it is an actual metric. This is what we've committed to the board. How are we going to move to that? This is what we've committed to our customers. How do we get that done and make it sustainable? This is what I've committed to my team, to my family. How can I lead in a way that feels in integrity and get those things done? So there's often this flavor of I'm looking to get this result. And what happens when we're out there looking to get a result, sometimes it's just in the thinking about it. Sometimes it's in the execution of it. Sometimes it's in the planning for it. We find ourselves having a lot of feelings, our presence shifts. And so there is this dance between what we do and how we're showing up in the doing of it. Does it feel sustainable? Is it anxiety producing? Does it feel like this is what I was made for and it's energizing? So those are a lot of the things that I'm thinking about in my work. And so as we talk about being prepared today, I want to break it down into three key areas that we're going to look at. And my hope and my belief is that it's going to spark some ideas for you about how you can integrate being prepared, being ready for whatever comes your way as you move forward. Because that's what we need to be able to do to design ourselves. It's not just setting a plan, it's being responsive to the circumstances in front of us. Okay, so holding that, here are the three things coming at you. We're first going to look at our preparation tendencies. This is about deepening our awareness about what our current behaviors are, because we can't change or see or operate differently if we don't have that awareness to start. So we're going to start by some awareness building, looking at our tendencies. Second, we're going to talk about preparation and presence. So what does our presence have to do with preparedness? So we're going to look at that together. And then finally, we're going to talk about how we honor our integrity as we are in the process of being prepared, as we are in this evergreen practice of being ready for whatever comes our way. And as we look at honoring our integrity, we're going to talk really about mindsets, because we can be doing the very same things, but depending on the mindset, we can be honoring our integrity or we can be diminishing it. And of course, I want for you to honor it. Okay, so let's start with preparation tendencies. Check-in time, friends. Let's think about it. When you think about getting ready for something, now this might be a big pitch meeting that's coming up. It might be a major milestone celebration, a gala, a wedding, some kind of celebration. It might be for something like a trip, business trip, family trip, something that you know is going to ask of you to get ready. What happens for you? And it's probably different depending on the event, so you might even notice that. Maybe you look at your calendar and think about a few upcoming events that you need to prepare for. What what happens for you as you think about preparing? You might think about, do I know what needs doing? Do I know what done looks like? Do I know when or how I'll do it? Just checking in on what happens for you. How do I feel about the plan, the execution? And what I want to posit is that there are common flavors that show up. Let's talk first about over preparing. So this is the tendency of that operates from the belief that we're never done. We can just keep on going and keep readying. There's always more that we can do. And while that has a light side to it, we're continuing to push, to innovate, to generate. It also has a high burnout potential. And it's usually rooted in not knowing what done looks like. So just check in for yourself. Where are the spaces in your life where you might over prepare? Second tendency, procrastination. This is operating from a space of, I'll do it later. I'm waiting to get it done. Now, that waiting to get it done might be because you're overcommitted in other areas. So you're procrastinating on that thing because until the deadline is in front of you, it's not urgent and you're just trying to get the other things done. That procrastination could also come from perfectionism, like a feeling of, I don't know if I'm good enough to do it or if I'll do it perfectly. So I'll just wait to do it until the deadline forces me into it. That procrastination might come from disorganization. Oops, I didn't know I needed to do that. But the point is you are waiting to get it done when procrastination is your preparation tendency. Notice where that shows up for you. There's also the tendency to wing it. This is where we're operating from, I don't need to prepare at all, or maybe I do need to prepare, but I didn't, so I'm winging it. I'm just showing up and doing it. And again, similar to procrastination, um, it might have a similar set of things leading you to do this, but in this instance, there's no preparation happening. Or it's whatever preparation you can think of as you're walking into the moment where you have to be ready. You're just winging it. And again, you can imagine light to that is you're really tapping into your presence. You might be trusting that you have everything that you need and you don't need to do any other kind of preparation. Shadow side, you may be missing a way to make what you're sharing or delivering or creating more coherent, not integrating, not seeing some of the connections because you're not taking that time for the setup. So just notice that. Where does that tendency, winging it, show up? And of course, there are other flavors to how you might prepare. Over preparing, procrastination, and winging it are some of the most common that I see. But just check in with yourself. What does it look like when you are preparing? What does that look like? And I'll give two examples for myself just to share that are really different. And just so you can kind of see, ooh, okay, here's what it might look like in practice. And in both these instances, mine are imperfect, right? Because I am a wildly imperfect being. And I offer it to you so that you can also think about, oh, yeah, rip the Band-Aid off. What are my wildly imperfect ways of doing this? So for the podcast, because here you are listening to it, what I do for the podcast is I do a check-in with myself. Sometimes it is planning out for several episodes in advance. Sometimes it is what's real and happening for this week, where I say, what's the pulse I'm seeing in my clients, in my own life, and in the kind of zeitgeist of that time. So what happens when we're in a September timing and it's back to school? What happens in a turn of the calendar year? What happens as we think about the seasons and how the seasons impact us? So I'll do that audit, and that's reflection. Like, this is for me, it might be walking, I might be in conversation with my husband about it. I'm often sitting in my studio and just kind of brainstorming ideas. Then I will distill it down to a topic, and the topic leads my way. So when I think of the topic, like today being prepared, I then think about what are the things that I'm often finding helpful for myself, for my clients, and how would I distill that? And I'll jot notes down, usually handwritten. I'll usually start with the full episode notes before I do the intro that you hear at the very top, set to music, and really just write out for myself, what do I want to share? And then I will think of some examples tied to that. Sometimes there's a book or a poem or another resource I want to bring in. I'll pull that in. And then finally, after I've done the full episode notes, and by the way, these are minimal. It's usually, 1 to 2 pages of handwritten, large handwriting notes. I find for me, not being overly scripted works for me when I'm speaking on the podcast. But I like to know what are the big topics and what are the major points I want to make. And then finally, I will share, uh, I will write out for myself, how am I distilling this into the upfront intro? And that usually takes a few times, always, of editing because that intro music is tight. So that needs to be in the zone of 30 seconds. And I'm always playing the music and reading it out loud. And okay, how's that timing? Okay, edit this again. I can say less here. That's actually a great exercise for me, and always distilling of what's most important. So, and then finally, once I've got all of that, my desk is usually pretty clear. I've got the podcast set up, and then I can record. So that's a kind of preparation. And there's a real routine for me on this is what it looks like, what I want to have, and then I can sit down and do it. Okay, so that's one kind. Then there is second one. What does it look like when I get ready for a trip? And I am about to head out on a trip. It is my first fun trip with a friend in a really long time, pre-COVID times, where there is no work goal. I have a practice, you've heard about it in my Gather Good episode, of I have a real good practice around meeting with dear friends and traveling where we have a work goal. So it is fun and energizing and rejuvenating, and also professional, like has that focus. So to do something that is just fun, that is pushing me outside my comfort zone in the best way, and so I'm very excited to do this. Heading out to California, which is also very much on my mind with all of the dramatic weather they are experiencing, which I'm thinking about, not tied to me and my trip, but really just the state of the climate. So holding that. But what I want to share with you is about how am I preparing for that trip? And when I notice my anxiety rises when I'm getting on airplanes. And it's something I've been checking in with myself and just noticing, okay, what about flying on airplanes is making me anxious? And I have greater travel now because I live in a rural location to get to the airport. So that creates some anxiety. I was out of the practice because of COVID, and I wasn't traveling as frequently and for over a year on airplanes, whereas there's been times in my professional life where I've been traveling every week by plane. So I'm just noticing that when it comes to getting prepared for a trip, my habit there is to procrastinate. And it's a worry and the procrastination is spurred on by my own anxiety. And so what I've been doing because I love traveling and I want to do more of it, is how am I easing my anxiety so that I can step into the preparing in a more sustainable way? And so I got new luggage this holiday season and I'm really excited about it. That's making my packing easier. I am really thinking thoughtfully about what pieces to bring and making sure that, in the whole of my wardrobe that I am cultivating things that operate in different parts of my life so that I need less stuff when I travel, that it works, I feel comfortable on a plane and presenting in a boardroom. So thinking about those things. Anyway, what I want you to see here is that when it comes to traveling by plane, I have less of a process, and therefore, and I have a different emotional reaction to it, and so it's currently less sustainable. If I were traveling every week, it would be really exhausting for me right now. I think I would probably get better at it faster. uh, but again, that's just the reality for me of what it looks like now. So I just want you to notice for yourself in all of this, what are your preparation tendencies? Okay, let's talk about preparation and presence. So there is this phrase and it is one of like the great pieces of wisdom that I took out of my leadership coaching program at Georgetown. And it came from my mentor coach who said, being present is more important than being prepared. So, one more time, being present is more important than being prepared. And that was a real, I've noticed for myself, I was at that time in my life, this is over a decade ago, much more leaning on a tendency, which I don't really have now, to over prepare. And, nothing was ever done. And I, the idea that the quality of my presence and not just what I was bringing into the room was a real mindset shift. So if it's a mindset shift for you, like embrace it, call it in. Okay, what's the invitation there? And the way that I now hold the being prepared and being present is that, yes, I do agree that being present, the quality of how we listen and ask questions and show up does matter more than what we've done in advance. However, what we've done in advance is going to contribute to what the quality of our presence can be. And it's very depending on the circumstances. So if I am showing up for a new client who doesn't know me at all and who I don't know at all, more importantly, there's a different kind of research and paying attention to them and learning about their background that I want to do than if I am talking to a longtime client. And that's not because one is more important than the other. It's that for me to be able to show up and listen and be in their circumstances, there's a little bit more that I want to know if it's someone I'm meeting for the first time. Now, this is not erring on the side of over preparation. So I don't operate from the belief that even with someone, a new client, a prospective new client that I'm meeting for the first time, that I need to know everything about them. I don't. The quality of my questions will allow me to learn. The mindset and belief that it's not my job to know everything about them serves me in being able to check that over preparation. But there are some things I want to make sure I'm tracking with that I don't have to do for a client that I'm already in deep flow in the work with. So, what I want you to think about here is in any given circumstance, when you think about, go back to that earlier prompt, what are a couple events that you are preparing for? That when you look on your calendar, you're thinking, yeah, this is something that I'm going to have to prepare for. What is the presence that you want to bring into that conversation, event, meeting, gathering? What is the presence that you want to have? And therefore, what preparation do you need to do that will allow you to have that presence? And that will be different depending on the type of event and depending on you. It will also be different depending on the experience you have in that given time. I remember the very first time I was going in to meet with the president and CEO of the professional services company where I worked, I felt like I needed a lot of different preparation to walk into that meeting to talk about our revenue and sales and trends. And I did need a different kind of preparation to be ready for that than I did 3, 4 years later when I had a lot of reps of doing that. It's not that I didn't prepare in those subsequent meetings for those dialogues, but there was a different kind of preparation needed when it was new, when I was really green in doing that. So, not better or worse, but just notice it is ultimately more important to be present than prepared, and you want to do the preparation that's going to cultivate your presence. And that, I think, gets to, what's the antidote to any of the tendencies that aren't working for you and how you prepare? It's that you are able to prioritize what matters most. So you're focusing on the thing or things that are important, that you are able to set a reasonable and sustainable expectation for what done looks like. What is me being prepared in this scenario? And also set a reasonable and sustainable expectation for how you can do that. Because sometimes we're like, well, this is what it would look like. But you look at it on your calendar and there's no way you can do that. Then you gotta adapt. Given the resources you have, what is reasonable and sustainable. So when you are focused on what matters and you know what done looks like and you know how done looks, how you're going to do it, then you have to do it. Honor that way. That's what's going to give you the space to then come in and be present. Okay, let's talk about the third thing, honoring your integrity. This is the mindset part of being prepared. And I was thinking about this recently tied to fitness and particularly around what we eat and how we move. And there's really important conversations out there, not just about body positivity, but body neutrality. I will link to a recent podcast episode on We Can Do Hard Things with Sonia Renee Taylor, and listen to this episode. If you've never read The Body Is Not an Apology, check it out. I'll link to all this in the show notes. But it was just this reminder to me that we're not out here to affirm, good job, you you're eating the right thing or you look the right way. It's not about that. But that also doesn't mean that eating well and moving in a way that is right for you isn't a positive for you and something that you can affirm for yourself as good. And that's where this is the mindset. This is what sits beneath the surface. If I am exercising on my Peloton with Allie Love 3 times a week, and that makes me happy, and I am doing it because I am honoring my integrity, that when I get on that bike, it makes me feel good. And when I ride with this person, her messages inspire me, which, by the way, is all true for me. That's very different than if I do the same actions. I'm getting on the Peloton and I'm riding 3 times a week with Allie Love, and I'm doing it because I want other people to know I've done it and tell me I've done a good job, or because I feel like my body isn't right and I need to change it. That's very different. So when I am eating well, and for me, the routines I have around this are tracking what I eat in Noom. That's another resource that I really like. It's been really helping me bring awareness to what I eat and the psychology behind it and new distinctions around it. And that works for me. That's by me tracking what I eat, which is in different times is something that I've done. Tracking what I eat, not holding myself that I can't ever change my calorie count. That doesn't feel right to me in this time, but paying attention to, am I eating for energy? Am I eating for fuel? Or am I eating as distraction? Am I eating to numb something else? doing the discipline around Noom, exercising on my Peloton, these are things that are allowing me to honor the integrity of how my spirit sits in my body. And that's what I want for you as you think about being prepared, is that whatever you are doing, be cognizant of what's the motivation. And are you coming at it from a place of strength? Are you coming at it from a place of integrity with yourself? Or are you operating from shoulds? Are you operating chasing what is, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, an unattainable affirmation from the external that you're good enough? You have to have that within yourself. That's where it comes from in a sustainable way. So just notice, both in the quality of what you're doing and the quality of how you are being in the doing of it, are you honoring your integrity? And that, beautiful listeners, is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope as you step forward, you will bring new awareness to the tendencies you have around preparing for things. I hope and trust you will check in not just with what needs doing, but what is the presence you want to have as a result of the things you have done. And finally, that in all that you do and in all that you be, you will honor your integrity. As you step forward, please know that it is my deeply held belief that there is nothing stopping you. So go on ahead and get after whatever it is you really want.